You're listening to the Doctor Is In podcast, brought to you by MartinClinic.com. During the episode, the doctors share a lot of information. As awesome as the info may be, it is not intended to diagnose, cure, treat, or prevent any disease. It's strictly for informational purposes.
We're talking about God's candies, fruit. Why do I call them God's candies? Okay? Because you don't want to eat too much of them. Because we live in a different age today, very different. The average person in Canada and the United States consumes, and they don't even realize it, they consume around 200 pounds of sugar a year. They don't see it. When people think of sugar, they think of table sugar, right? And, you know, not that you don't see it much, but I was watching, it wasn't an older movie, it was a new movie. But I watched, back in the it was during World War II. So it was in the late 30s and 1940s. They were acting out a war movie in England or United Kingdom. And the guy was putting about 5, those cubes of sugar cubes? He put about 5 of them in his tea. And I was kind of laughing because I grew up with that, right? Sugar cubes. I guess they're around, but I don't see them much. I don't see people putting the actual sugar cubes. Now, the problem with sugar today, comparatively, is that it's hidden. It's in everything, right? And that's the problem. It's hidden. And all I got to say with you is that we consume a lot of hidden sugar. And part of that sugar, you would think it's good for you, is in fruit. The problem with that is it's hidden, but look, fruit sugar, fructose, takes a different route than glucose does. Glucose gets metabolized in the gut and it goes to your cells. Fructose, even fruit sugar, gets metabolized in the liver. And you need to understand that. And that's all right. Your body knows what to do. Okay? One of the chemical processes of fruit sugar is uric acid. Okay? Uric acid. So, again, that's normal. You hear the word uric acid and you're thinking, well, a lot of people think of gout. And yes and no. Yes, it is the cause of gout. But a lot of people have the idea that, it's rich foods, right? The king got gout. It used to be called the king's disease. The peasants didn't get gout. The king got gout. The reason the king got it is not because he was eating meat. It's because he was drinking wine. Fructose, right? And beer. Because alcohol, folks, goes to the liver. Fructose goes to the liver. You need a chemical reaction to happen once that gets into your liver. It's called uric acid. It's a byproduct. So in the liver, I've discussed this with you before, in the liver, when the liver gets full, what happens? You make triglycerides, 3 balls of fat, okay? And when the liver is full, you make triglycerides. And when part of that process is to make uric acid. So everybody makes uric acid. But the problem is uric acid gets broken down as urea. And then you're supposed to pee it out. You pee it out as urea. Urea is always present in your urine. But for a lot of people, they don't break it down properly. And they make way too much uric acid. And that has a major effect on blood pressure. One of the reasons that blood pressure is such a huge issue in society today, one of the leading causes of heart disease and stroke is blood pressure. But take it a step back. Most of the time, the blood pressure is elevated because of elevated levels of uric acid. And uric acid, again, you're making a lot of uric acid when you consume fructose. There's good, bad, and ugly sugar, But when you live in a world where your liver is working 24 hours a day That's a big problem because we were never meant to consume the amount of sugar that we consume today. And a lot of it comes in the form, table sugar, remember, is half and half. But a lot of added sugars in your foods, the invisible sugar that you don't see in your juice boxes, in your candy, in your chocolate bars, in your granola, in your anything that's made, man-made, they add not table sugar, they're adding high fructose corn syrup, which is the antichrist of sugars. It gets consumed or broken down directly in your liver. So there's two byproducts of that. One of them is uric acid, and we'll come back to that. And the other one is AGES. What is that? Okay? Glycation end products. Now, these are big words, but the problem is glycation end products, it creates enormous amount of free radical damage, aging, oxidation of the body. So you have a two-pronged problem. One is glycation, okay, which caramelizes your tissue, and from your joints to your skin, it ages everything. And this is why even, I don't want to get too complicated, but you see so much more, for example, plantar fasciitis. And these are often signs that you're consuming too much sugar. It's interesting that on the reset, when you're not consuming any fructose at all, zero, nada, how many people get relief from pain? Why? They're lowering their uric acid levels and they're lowering their glycation levels. Two reasons. And of course, when you lower your insulin, you're lowering your inflammation right out of the gate. That's three reasons. And so it's incredible. As we talk about this, the tale of two organs. One of them is your liver, your suitcase, the Costco parking lot, and the other one is your kidneys. Because as your liver goes, your kidney goes. They are very much connected. They are two organs. Number one, you can't live without them. You can get on dialysis, but that ain't going to last long. Dialysis for your kidneys, of course. The problem is, when you look at your kidneys, it's at the kidney area where if you make uric acid, so you're consuming sugars and fructose, even good sugars, you think they're good, okay? You make uric acid, it's one of the byproducts in the liver, and then uric acid is converted to urea, and then you pee it out. But what happens if your kidneys are not working properly? How does that happen? The problem with kidneys is insulin. It's sugar. You see, kidney function gets diminished when your insulin is elevated. Remember what sugar does. One of the first things that it attacks is capillaries, your tiny little microcirculation. You can't see it. It's almost invisible. Capillaries are so small. The only place to really get a good look at your capillaries is if you look into your eyeball. You know, you get in, when your doctors or your optometrist or your ophthalmologist, they look into your eyes, right? What are they looking at? Generally, I mean, they look at a couple of other things, of course, but they look at your microcirculation in your eyes. But that's what's happening in your kidneys too. Microcirculation and elevated sugar, elevated insulin really has a major effect on your kidneys. But the liver and kidneys work together because when you're eating sugar or consuming sugar and fructose, the hidden sugar, and even fruit, this is why personally I don't eat a lot of fruit. I would like to. I love fruit. I could live on cherries and bananas and grapes and apples. I love that stuff. I do. But it's God's candies in this day and age. We live in a different world completely. You have to understand that. And anybody that's got metabolic syndrome, and one of the classic signs of metabolic syndrome, it happens two ways. One is the elevation of uric acid. And then you're not peeing out all your urea. That puts stress on your kidneys. And stress on your kidneys, it'll elevate your blood pressure. So you see how it always comes back to sugar? Not steak, not chicken, sugar. And sugar is so toxic. If you're to empty your blood vessels, guys, you empty your blood vessels, and what happens? You got a teaspoon of sugar in 5 liters, or a half a teaspoon. No more than that. Your body knows what to do with sugar. It gets rid of it out of your bloodstream immediately. But it is the byproduct of sugar that affects it affects every organ, but 2 ones that I want to talk about this morning. Uric acid elevating your overall inflammation levels, and AGE, glycation end products, which is another form of free radical damage. And free radicals create inflammation too. So at the end of the day, you're making a lot of inflammation, and you're putting stress on 2 main organs in your body. And this is why when if you want to know what's really important in your blood work, I can tell you by looking at 2 numbers. I just need to see, because if you have elevated, okay, if your triglycerides are elevated and your HDL, your good cholesterol, is low, you're in doo-doo. You're in trouble. Things are happening in your body already, and you need to change that. Because of, if you have elevated triglycerides, doctors, well, they would agree with this. Elevated triglycerides are not good. They're dangerous. They're fat balls from sugar. But I look at it much deeper than that, because if you have elevated triglycerides, you have liver stress. You know what's one of the worst combinations that people have? Is they consume way too much sugar and too much alcohol. That's a deadly combination for your liver. Your liver is a suitcase. Alcohol goes directly to it, but so does fructose. And that's a deadly combination, So you have to really understand that. Uric acid, AGE, deadly combination in your body, destroying your blood vessels, microcirculation, causing enormous free radical damage, aging of the body, okay? And I want to show you that this week. And in an illustration, you will see it. And this is what happens. Even sugar, guys, destroys your skin. It's like smoking. It creates aldehydes. And this is why, I talked to you about this in the past, that even sugar, when we look at it's the new smoking, because still one of the number one cancers today, still the number one reason that people die of cancer, the number one cancer is lung cancer. Even though most people, not all people, but even most people got the memo and quit smoking, but they didn't quit sugar because the food industry stole the marketing strategy of the tobacco industry. 9 out of 10 doctors smoke Camel. You got to be my age to remember that. 9 out of 10 doctors choose Camel cigarettes. Like, what? They're good for you? Nah. But they were liars, pants on fires, weren't they? And this is what the problem is in this day and age. It's smoking has been replaced by sugar. And this is why I call fruit God's candies. Because your body, to have some fruit, well, who cares? It's actually would be good for you if that was the only sugar we were consuming. But I tell people today, we live in a different world. I never seen as much production of uric acid as that I saw in the last 10 or 15 years of my practice. Like incredible amounts of uric acid made. And people go, why is so much uric acid? It's one of the things that we always talk to patients about. Your uric acid levels. You're making it, man. Well, uric acid is a byproduct of what your liver is doing. And it just means if you're making uric acid, you're making a lot of, because your liver is full of stored glycogen, sugars. So again, like I said, if you show me your triglycerides and your HDL, I can tell you a whole story about that. I can tell you that your insulin is elevated. If your insulin's elevated, it's your inflammation is high. And you might not even know it. It would be very silent. If you have high blood pressure, you have trouble with insulin. It's as simple as that. You need to change your diet. And it ain't the salt. It's not salt. When you cry, what are your tears? Salt. What's in your blood? Salt. It's all good. Salt don't make you sick. Sugar makes you sick. You need to understand that. You know? Oh, you got a high blood pressure, the doctor will lower your salt levels, right? They want to get rid of edema. I understand why they do it, but they're looking for love in all the wrong places, guys. It's not salt. It's sugar. But they won't tell you to lower your sugar. As a matter of fact, if you go online right now, 99% of any nutritionist, doctor, whatever in the healthcare field will tell you that we're not eating enough fruit. We need to eat more of it and less candy. And it sounds good, but your body, once your insulin is elevated, your body doesn't know the difference, guys. Your body doesn't know the difference. Fructose is fructose to your body, and you're going to make uric acid. And you're going to make AGE, glycation, which is oxidation. It's a different form of oxidation, but it's still free radical damage. It's just going to make your blood vessels age and your skin age prematurely, okay? And maybe this week we'll touch upon a study that came out about protecting your skin inside out from free radical damage. Okay, protect your skin inside out. Start inside protecting your skin. Okay, so very important things. So what are God's candies? Fruit. Be careful. All I'm saying is be careful. If you are in the 12% of the population, according to the CDC, that don't have any trouble at all, you'll get away with fruit. Okay, but if you're in the 88%, how do I know? Well, you only need one of these symptoms. You got belly fat? Do you gain weight quickly? You got high blood pressure? You can't see your liver, but do you have elevated triglycerides? You can't look at your kidneys and, well, you can't see them. You know, you got elevated levels of uric acid. You got metabolic syndrome. And, you know, me, Dr. Martin, I'm not on any meds, thank God, but I got to be careful. Okay, I have to be careful. And I just don't eat a lot of fruit. I can't. Okay? So this is the lesson today. Okay? I want to thank you for watching today. If you have any questions, send your questions in, and we'll see you tomorrow, Lord willing. Talk to you soon.
You've reached the end of another Doctor is In podcast with your hosts, Dr. Martin Jr. and Sr. Be sure to catch our next episode, and thanks for listening.